Hi there everyone, Laurel Beard here again with another video and card for my 25 days of Christmas video series. Now I actually have 7 cards today that I'm going to create with the same background stamp, and here's a peek at all 7 of them. Now I'm going to focus more on the techniques and how I created the backgrounds and less on assembling the cards, but we will go through that as well. So let's take a look at the first 2 cards I'm going to create, and this is by doing direct inking with Distress Oxides. I've been addicted to them lately. This is the Snow Trails stamp from Penny Black Stamp, and I am working on Distress watercolored cardstock. I'm going to ink up part of the stamp with some of this walnut stain from, it's all Distress Oxides is what I'm using for these cards. So this is walnut stain, and I just partially inked up here and there, and I spritzed it with water, and then I'm going to go ahead and press it. I am using my Misty stamping tool. This is key because I want to make sure that I can create layers here. Now, when you're adding any other color to your Distress Oxides background, make sure you dry them in between, which is why I'm using my Ranger Heated tool. This is Evergreen Bow. I always get it wrong. Very pretty green. And I've gone ahead and inked that up and again spritzed it with water. Now I'm going in again. I didn't get as much coverage of the green as I wanted, so again, same thing. I'm going to ink it up, spritz it with water, and stamp. And you can see why using the Misty is key here. Now this is Hickory Smoke. I want to add some kind of like, not dirty snow, but textured snow to the background. So I'm just having a good old time here. Just basically inking, spraying, stamping, inking, spraying, stamping. Now here I wanted to accentuate the little trail there, the little snow trail, so I went ahead and inked that up. This time I didn't spritz it with water. I really wanted that to show. And now I'm going to do a second card here. And I'm basically going to ink the whole thing up with just this gray ink, this Hickory Smoked Distress Oxide ink. This ink is great for stamping. With the traditional distress inks, you don't really get good stamped impressions because those distress inks are mostly for techniques. But with the oxides, you can do techniques and stamping. I'm going to go in and re-ink it several times because I really want this to be a very deep hickory smoked color. So I'm going to ink it and stamp it. I am not using any water here. I am simply using the Distress Oxide as I would any ink for stamping purposes. So now that that's done, I'll remove it all from my Misty and I can put the Misty away. And then I'm going to bring both of those panels and I'm going to dry it. Make sure it's good and dry with my Ranger Heated tool. This is not an embossing gun or an embossing tool. This is just great for drying any inked panels or any kind of watercoloring or anything like that. So the card to the left has all the colors I need. You can see the different colors within the trees and the branches and the leaves. So this card is done. I just need to, put a sentiment on it. So I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to move that to the side and I'm going to focus on adding some watercolor to the background here. So this is some tumbled glass Distress Oxide. Now it is water. Will react to water. So it is going to pick up some of that gray ink, but I'm being careful not to let my brush touch too much where that gray ink is. I'm kind of going around it, but the water is helping blend it out. So I'm going in with this Distress Oxide, the tumbled glass, to add a little bit of a sky. Now I wanted to create a sunset, so I'm going in with spiced marmalade and squeezed lemonade, and I'm going to create this little sunset here. Now I got some ink from the lid. It dropped onto my card panel, gosh darn it, but that's okay. I made it work. So I'm going to go in and add some of the orange. Drying in between layers is always key with the oxides, and then you can layer upon layer upon layer, which is a great benefit of using the Distress Oxide. So I've got my beautiful sunset here. In my mind, it's beautiful. And you'll see me dry it. By God, I love this heated tool. I can't get over how long I went without it. I thought it was an embossing gun, and it doesn't really emboss. It embosses, but it takes forever. But it's great for drying your watercolored panels and stuff. I love it. So I'm so glad I don't know how I figured out that's what it was for. I think I saw it in a video. I'm like, why is anybody using this? It's to dry your watercolor. It's awesome. So here I am going on with a little bit of walnut stain just to add along the trails and along the trees and just to give it a little bit more dimension. Just going in having a great old time just to create this scene here with this same background. And the 2 backgrounds that I created with the oxides are going to be so different. And you'll see it here once I dry it and pull the color and pull the cards together here. So they're different, but it's the same background. So I just love it. Here's a look at the one I just watercolored. I love the depth from the trees and the brown and the sunset and the sky. I just think it's really pretty. And then the second card, all of the Distress Oxides did the work for me. I didn't have to do anything. It's the one I just inked and stamped, inked and stamped. And look at the beautiful variation of color from that. I just applied some sentiments, heat embossed them, and with this one I took an embossing pen and went around the frame and embossed it in the same embossing powder, which is Penny from Brutus Monroe, and that's this card. It's beautiful. We'll take a close-up look at all the cards at the end of the video. So hang with me. Let's take a look at the heat embossed images I did. So all this is the same background stamp. It's just embossed with different color embossing powders, and I'll go over all that with you later. But same image, but we can do different techniques because it's embossed. With the first one, this turns out to be my favorite and the easiest. This is Nouveau Mica Mist in the color Turkish Rose, and then I added some silver on the bottom, Silver Smoke. It's absolutely beautiful, and it gives you this beautiful shine in the background. I love it. This embossed image was Gunmetal from Ranger, and take a look at this. This card's done. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful and my favorite and the quickest. We're going to add some tumbled glass and walnut stained Distress Oxide direct to a die cut panel. This is Sandcastle embossing powder I used in the background, and that's just a regular circle die. I just die cut the panel. So I'm going to spritz it with water and I'm going to let it dry. And then you've got another card ready to go. You get the texture and the shine from the embossed background, and then I just adhered a die cut sentiment cut with glitter paper to the background, and that card was done. Again, I will show all the cards at the end of the video. With this one, I'm going to do some simple watercoloring with my Gonzai watercolors. This embossing powder is Emerald City embossing powder. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's green with flakes of gold in it. So I'm just going in with two colors from the Gonzai, a very deep sapphire blue and then a gold for this card. And I'm just doing simple watercoloring. I'm just slapping it down there. And that's it. And you know, the embossed image is going to resist all that watercolor. So you're going to get the texture from the embossing powder and those flakes of gold. Really, it's absolutely stunning. So that's why I tied in some gold to the ground there. And this card was very simple to pull together. So you're getting all these different kind of cards, but with the same exact background stamp. I love that. With this one, I just adhered a glittery die cut Merry Christmas to that card. For this card, this is Penny embossing powder from Brutus Monroe, and I'm going in with some Nouveau glitter accents. This is Fresh Snowfall, just to add some snow on the ground and kind of up in the trees. When it dries, it looks like fresh snow, glittery snow, and then it's going to dry hard, so you get the dimension from that as well. It dries very quickly, I think maybe half an hour, and I was ready to assemble this card here. So I love this stuff. I believe it comes in some different glitter colors too. I have the gold and the Fresh Snowfall, but I'm just using the Fresh Snowfall. Now, it's getting cold where I live, so I thought it was perfect. So once it was dry, I sprayed some more Nouveau Mica Mist. This is Nebula Blue to kind of create the sky. And this card was done. I didn't do a sentiment at all on this card, but look at the dimension you get from the snow and the shine from that mica mist. And last but certainly not least, I took that panel and die cut it with an Alta Nude die there, watercolor stripes, and that was actually heat embossed with some alabaster embossing powder. You couldn't see it until I sprayed some of the mica mist. This time I combined the Nebula Blue with the silver smoky gray, and I got that pretty pink purplish color. Isn't that pretty? And then I simply just pieced back in the watercolor stripes at die cut with some foam dimension. I just pieced it all back in place, added a die cut and some black paint flicks, and this card was done. So I've got all these different cards here from the same background stamp. Here's the first one we did with the Distress Oxides with the various colors. That did all the work for me with a heat embossed sentiment. This is the one we just completed. I love the dimension from the watercolored stripes, so I've just got some double-sided foam tape behind all those stripes there and just pieced it back together. Love the texture and dimension. Here's the other Distress Oxide one where we just stamped it with a smoky gray. I adhered it to a very silvery, shiny card base there, and that card was done. Moving on to the next one. This is the one we watercolored with the Gonzai watercolors, just two colors, and that emerald green embossing powder is beautiful, and just finish that off with a glittery die cut. This one is the one where we did the oxides direct to the paper there. That's some Sandcastle embossing powder. I created a card base just by using my scoreboard to create that one. And this is just the background, the gunmetal embossed background with the two colors of mica mist. This one was like, what, a 10-second card. And that's actually, it's my favorite out of all of them. This is the one that has that beautiful textured snowfall. Isn't that gorgeous? And the sky with the mica mist. Quick spritz and I've got myself a sky. So all these different cards created with the same background stamp. Isn't that beautiful? So many possibilities. You can take your scene, you can heat emboss it, you can ink it up, you can do whatever you want. Just mass produce a ton, right? You could just sit down and mass produce a ton and then die cut some of them, circles, hearts, whatever floats your boat. Add a little border around the edge with some embossing powder like I did there. Add some touches of freehand watercoloring like I did here. Really, there's endless possibilities. You can grab up all those sentiment die cuts. This doesn't have to be just Christmas cards. This can be anything you want it to be. So just take a look at all the shaped dies you have. Take a look at your embossing powders. Take a look at any sprays you have or anything you could do to just kind of create all these different cards, but just using one stamp set, which is fantastic. You know what I'm saying? Very budget friendly, right? So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of my 25 Days of Christmas video series. Here's links to a couple of other videos I've posted in the series, and I will be back again tomorrow. See you then.